Boop. All right, let's get this party started. Hello, and welcome to episode 13 of the Scheming Mind Palace podcast. I am your host, Luca Ravelli, the true party king of the neon revolution. As you can clearly tell if you're watching the video, that is evidently a large part of the renaissance for humanity that I'm trying to herald in, which is the infatuation of, I guess, art and color and embracing your true insanity. Because I often say the best path forward is not necessarily to fully exude your crazy side, because there should always be different levels of how much you reveal of your true nature. However, learning to curate your crazy happens to be the prime directive of how to move forward in this unseeming world of superficiality. And as such, I have a little something crazy to share with you guys right now. A little something that I've been scheming up, you can say. It's a little poem. And it's not just any poem. It's a poem to help in these unseeming times in terms of enacting a more proactive approach to this pandemic. Now, this is going to be something that I hope to continue throughout all future episodes, at least during this Quaranscheming period. And if you're watching the video of this, I have a few other little goodies that I hope to share with you in time, especially this one. This one's got a very special gift inside for all of you. But first, let us start with this appetizer of what is to come. For this poem is called The Personal Proactive Pursuits Preventing Predictable Panic. And as you can tell from this, it is quite luminescent. I hope to have a fun little infographic on this corner over here, perhaps, as I read it, so you can fully appreciate the artistry that went into this. Now first, I will simply read it to you, and then I will break it down stanza by stanza. Here we go. How to boost your immunity. Establish balance within your mind. Command control over your urges. Meditate over your emotional reactions. When hunger hits, hydrate and feel it flee. When bathing, embrace the cleansing cold. When aroused, redirect your reaction. When anxiety arises, awaken your awareness, then break with a breath. The simplest solutions are commonly uncomfortable, yet eternally empowering. Luca Ravelli. Hope you enjoy that. Early reading. Now to break it down in terms of the point of today's podcast. For this poem is going to act as the foil for more structure. Because as I've been podcasting, creating more content, I've been listening to all of your amazing feedback, appreciating it a lot. And definitely a large point seems to be that a lot of times I can ramble, and while it does have a certain allure and charm, many times I tend to lose track of what I was originally talking about, and especially when it's something someone's really interested in. All of a sudden it's like, whoop, what? Where's he going now? Oh, well, I guess he forgot what he was talking about, darn. So, with this, I hope to coalesce my thoughts, essentially curating my crazy. So let's start off. How to boost your immunity, establish balance within your mind, command control over your urges, meditate over your emotional reactions. So these first 4 lines are obviously the setup for the next 4 to come. Yet it really helps set the tone of how I'm trying to facilitate this more proactive approach to the COVID-19 pandemic, to how to approach all these pandemics. Because obviously, if you're listening now to your spiritual ophthalmologist, you are interested in a specific type of medical advice, not necessarily one of the traditional sense. You know, if you want to listen to any real doctors, there are plenty of other podcasts to listen to. But mine is more so an inner mental one, because in these times of quarantining, of separating yourselves from your loved ones, being able to balance your psychological traumas, because again, as humans, we are social creatures. So this type of quarantining is difficult. To do that, we must gain mastery over this difficulty within our own mind. And as such, there are 4 pieces of advice to follow that really help, at least personally, assess and address these issues. Because, I mean, I suppose this is the first time to announce it, but I won't be likely returning to New York for quite some time, for at least another month or 2, due to the fact that now New York is so heavily in lockdown that the original site of the Scheming Mind Palace shall be continued to be left unoccupied. Very sad. I had quite some incredible plans for upgrading it, and perhaps when I do return, it shall still happen. But until then, I am embracing the fact that I'm going to be essentially alone for the next 2 months from everyone that I love back in the city. So this is how I get through that. And I hope it works for you guys too. So when hunger hits, hydrate and feel it flee. I'm difficulty reading my own poetry. So yes, essentially this is talking about fasting. So fasting is quite a curious method of retaining mental fortitude, because controlling your urges, as I discussed in the previous stanza, like meditating over your emotional reactions. Hunger is one of those basic urges that we all experience and then immediately react with eating some food. And, it's obviously a logical progression of, you're hungry, eat some food. But most of the time, our mind is fooled into thinking that we're hungry when we're not actually hungry. Our mind just thinks that we should be hungry because we normally eat at around that time. Traditional thought process might be that you'll be hungry now and you won't stop being hungry until you eat something. But in fact, most of the time your levels of hunger will subside regardless of if you've eaten or not. Like, they've actually done studies testing the hormones that our bodies exude when we are hungry. And these hormones, if you are someone that eats a 3-meal-a-day diet, these levels will go up breakfast, and then lunch, and then dinner. And these waves will go up and down regardless of if you've actually eaten or not. So what does that tell us? That we are creatures of habit. And as such, I've personally found that just like eating 1 meal a day fills me with a lot of both mental fortitude, but also it gives me more time in the day to think about other stuff. Like, how much easier do you think your life would be if you don't constantly have to think of, what's my next meal? I have to eat another meal. 3 hours later I have to eat another meal. 4 hours later I have to eat another meal. It's breakfast time. What am I eating now? Like, just being able to cast it aside and just have a nice big lunch is fine. And honestly, even having a lunch that's twice the size or even 3 times the size of what you normally would eat isn't actually going to make you any less fat. Like, there are plenty of diabetic people that basically will only eat 1 meal a day, but during that 1 meal will eat far more calories than usual, and yet will decrease, like their body weight will plummet rapidly. And obviously everyone's body type is different, but it seems to be pretty uniform, obviously excluding certain issues. And as such, to wrap up this stanza, I often find that if my tummy starts to grumble, just drinking a little bit of water will cast it aside if I don't feel like this is the time when I really want to eat, like it's not convenient to eat. But if the hunger continues, so be it. Then maybe, you should eat. Like, if you're literally in pain from hunger, like, eat. This is just a simple suggestion, because it really helps train your mind to be okay with discomfort. That's what almost all these points are about, as the last stanza discusses. So, okay, number 2. When bathing, embrace the cleansing cold. So, ice cold showers. So as a Wim Hofer, you could say a follower of the Wim Hof method, which obviously has its own basis in tons of different practices. Like Tibetan monks have practiced many methods similar to Wim Hof method, including even like Russian Olympic athletes Some of the things, so many people have really delved into the science of, cold therapy and how amazing that is on the body. Whether that's restoring brown fat cells, which really helps with weight loss, or for me, in my personal perspective, I love it for its mental stimulation, for its mental clarity. How, there was a morning 2 days ago where I woke up so sick because we had a big family dinner, because we were doing a lot of that under quarantine with me and my parents. It's actually been kind of nice having that in terms of the quarantine really forcing a lot of family meals at home, but sometimes they get excessive, as Italians might. And I felt so bad. And then the next morning, that same morning when I was feeling so sick, I was just tossing, turning, didn't know what to do. And eventually I just kind of dove into a shower, and I was just thinking, you know what, just go cold. Just go cold. I started off warm, because I'll do that sometimes, because often personally, just simply getting wet is an uncomfortable sensation, especially if you're like I am out in the country and it's pretty freezing cold all the time. Just simply getting wet is annoying enough as is. So starting off warm and then building up cold is sort of the natural progression that I found really works the best. And when you do that, you really need to embrace it. Like I say, embrace the cleansing cold. If you go into the cold shower with your preconceived notions of oh my God, it's going to suck, this is going to be so annoying, so painful, so uncomfortable, it's going to be like that. The way that you perceive it before it happens is how you will perceive it while it's happening. However, if you do what I do, and you're kind of lying to yourself, perhaps, and when it starts off, but after you're done, you recognize the truth behind the words of, thank you, cold. I can't wait to feel the warm cold. The cold is your warm friend. And so many times I'll just keep saying that and doing this breathing technique where it's pretty simply just breathe in through the nose, fill up your belly, then chest, and out through the mouth. Just go cyclically, and you'll find the cold really doesn't feel as cold. And sometimes I'll just start laughing so hard. I'll just feel I will never, laughing in the cold. I remember I've had exes that when they would hate the cold showers, and they're like, no, I'm going cold. And they'd just see me laughing, be like, look, you're insane. And I'm I don't know. I really don't feel like anything could be better than this. And afterwards, you really do feel like the world is your oyster. Especially if you do it in the morning, because in the morning, this is how I'll end this section of the cold, even though I guess there are other important things. But with the cold, especially if you do it in the morning, what are you doing to your mind? Because again, when you wake up in the morning, your mind is very supple. Your mind is very attuned to suggestion. That's why they often say don't check your phone, your Instagram, whatever, right when you wake up. Because what you're doing is you're setting your brain up to be reactive, to want that endorphin rush throughout the day. However, if let's say you don't check your phone until you take a cold shower, what you're doing is you're setting your mind up to not consume and react, but be proactive, but say, no, I'm going to take this day. I'm going to sacrifice a little bit of comfort for a lot of gain. And I was actually even just rewatching an episode with Wim Hof, where he basically went through all those the scientific studies And I think Holland, I forget what university or hospital they did this exam at, but they literally found that you can control your autonomic nervous system with this breathing technique, like the Wim Hof method, which involves like deep breathing, similar to what you do during the cold shower and cold showers, like cold exposure. And like whenever I'd like say that to some of my medical friends, they'd be like, "Bullshit, yeah, you're right." And I'd show them, they'd be like, "Holy crap! Like what? Like I didn't know this. Like we didn't read any about this any of the textbooks I had." And like, update your textbooks, bro, because a lot of them, at least in Europe, like they have been updated to literally include a section called the Iceman. And even though it's specifically referencing him, he's not an anomaly. Like, even though he was able to resist this E. coli bacterial injection, it wasn't just a sort of freak of nature thing. They even asked him, okay, well, you know, you're an anomaly. We need other people doing your technique too to show this actually works. He's like, oh, I can teach people. All right, what do you need, like a year, 2 years? Give me 4 days. In 4 days, he got 10 other people to give the exact same results that he had. It was insane. Like, it just blew everyone out of the water that you could possibly change someone's anatomy that quickly. Because they had tested, I think, over like 16,000 people with the same like E. coli injections. And these are dead E. coli cells, so they're not actually going to hurt anyone, but your body will still react just like it was real E. coli. And all the 16,000 people beforehand all had like cold sweats, everything, going crazy, like, you know, traditional viral infections. But these 10 people that did his breathing technique, not a clue. Like they all thought they were like getting shot up with a placebo. Like, come on, what is this, like sugar water injecting into me? Come on, give me the real stuff. It's like, nope. This is rewriting the textbooks. And as such, maybe it's because it is all mental. Who knows? Maybe everything we know about medicine is misconstrued. But anyways, we can talk about the differences of placebo and nocebo later. All right, now on to number 3. When aroused, redirect your reaction. So this one I feel like works for everybody, but is specifically important for my male audience. Because, I mean, if we're being fully transparent, I'm one of those people that, God, not even that many years ago, like 3-4 years ago, I used to like jerk off like 4 or 5 times a day. And it would just be a routine almost, where I just like wake up, get high, jerk off, play some video games, like jerk off again, go like to school, come back, do that again, like, and then do it again when I went to bed. Like it'd just be this like sickening cycle. And obviously that was quite excessive. But as someone that definitely has delved into the extreme excess of delving into that, and like with pretty much daily frequency for like almost months on end, and then realizing, I guess, how uninspired I was during that period, how unmotivated I was to really push my comfort boundaries, I then just totally switched off. And I think it was like 2.5 weeks without any of that. And for someone like me, that was huge. And I'll personally admit I still haven't broken that record. Eventually I'll go back to try and breaking it again. But yeah, and at the end of that 2.5 weeks, I was like, I was trying to write a book. I didn't get too far, because then I did jerk off again, and it was like, what am I doing? I have a lot of other more important stuff to do. But yeah, no, like the level of inspiration you feel, and the fact that you really do feel like it's like your sexual energy is energy. It's not necessarily something that the only way to let it out and to make it stop annoying you. Like, that's how I used to think about it, just as an annoying instinct that needed to just go. Once you learn to redirect it more creatively, it becomes far more, just far more rewarding. That's all I have to say. But, none of these are obviously mandates. I'm not necessarily the perfect role model or guru here. It's just things that I've personally noticed and I strive towards to the best of my abilities. Next, number 4. When anxiety arises, awaken your awareness, then break with a breath. Yeah, I feel like that really helps sum up a lot of previous points. Talking about Wim Hof, while also just delving into the fact that being, so tied up in your comforts creates a higher susceptibility to anxiety. Like, if you don't work, if you don't push your comfort zone, if you just go through the motions and do what has helped you in the past, because obviously everyone has different habits they form because at certain points in their lives it helped them get through a certain part. But we often forget that different situations arise, which will require us to have new habits to address those new situations. And as such, awakening your awareness is key. Being able to meditate on your current state, and if your methods for addressing your current state are actually the best modes of addressing it, is key. Because no one, I'm not going to tell you, and if anyone else tells you this is the best thing for you to do, they're just full of it. No one's going to honestly be able to know the best path forward for you. And these are all just suggestions that I've personally found through my own meditations. But everyone has their own journey, everyone has their own path, their own history, and no outside individual is ever going to truly know everything you've gone through and what will work best for you. The only one that best knows is you. And more importantly is your subconscious, your deeper brain that we often shut off because our active, conscious mind is always, needing to get to the next thing, achieve the next task, run away from the tiger or whatever sort of evolutionary reason we have for it. But being able to just breathe with me. All right, remember, in through the nose, fill the belly, chest, out through the mouth. That's all it takes. When you feel anxious, you feel panic, all it really takes is just one breath to meditate. You don't have to sit there for hours and hours. Obviously, the more breaths you intake, the more you meditate, likely the deeper you'll go. But all it takes is just that one breath to change your mindset far more than you could possibly imagine, and allow you to reach that deeper state of knowledge more so than you could possibly realize. Especially during these uncertain times when so many people are losing their jobs. I have so many really close friends that I want. It honestly hurts me so much, the fact that I can't help everyone. I really wish I could. I really wish I could just invite all of you guys over here to work with me on these sort of agricultural revolution projects, join the agricultist crew. But a lot of people aren't ready, and honestly, our business isn't ready for that kind of influx of people. And as such, it's honestly even kind of naive for me to believe that inviting all of those friends that have lost their work, their purpose, inviting them over is going to solve their problems. It's so naive. All I can really do is just hope to pass on, I guess, an understanding that the answer lies within you. The path forward is seemingly bleak. It's certainly uncertain. And for many people that lost their jobs that required them to be outside, mingling about, commuting, and now they no longer can do that and their employers no longer need them. It might seem as though there is really nothing you can do. Like for the first time, you can't work your way out of it. I call bullshit on that, I'm sorry to say. I really don't believe that that's true. I really believe that a lot of these boundaries are really set up mentally, and obviously I might be speaking from a more privileged mindset because I still have work, personally. I hate to say it, honestly, this whole pandemic is actually going to be incredibly great for my business because we are a fully sustainable agricultural tourism business, and as such the government is really pushing for us to do this more, become more self-sustaining so that we don't have to rely on other countries for food and everything. So if such an event were to happen again, we'd be ready. And so obviously, I'm not in the best situation to say that, oh yes, there are so many options out there, but I've done my research. I've seen that there are still avenues through the internet to receive income. And it just requires, I guess, a different mental state, a different way of looking at the world, a different way of looking at your situation and your skill set and how you can help other people and make money at the same time. It doesn't have to be some sort of a plot and sort of an evil scheme to get money out of people. It can be a legitimately philanthropic venture that also happens to help you sustain your own livelihood, because everyone's got to eat and live. And as such, I bring to the last stanza: the simplest solutions are commonly uncomfortable, yet eternally empowering. And that's really helping to touch upon what I said earlier, that these series of suggestions that I'm creating are not, what we've all heard: social distancing, wash your hands, don't shake hands. If a friend says, you want to come over, I feel fine, say no. Obviously all of that is quite true, and it's quite important for us to all do. But those are proactive in their own sense in terms of the physicality of it. But the way I'm looking at this, the tendency for people to want to socialize, to want to congregate, are only going to be further amplified if people aren't mentally strong enough to distance themselves. I have this friend group in New York, and I always have this one friend that keeps saying, hey guys, let's hang out, come on, we'll be fine, we'll have a quarantine-free zone, we'll hang out in, and other people will be like, no, you can't hang out. Others are like, oh yeah, sure, we'll hang out. It's like, oh God, you guys, what are you doing? You guys are so dumb, I'm sorry to say, don't do that. At least the ones that are saying, let's hang out. Especially in New York, Jesus. Like, like if you want me to come home, you guys gotta stop hanging out so that the virus can go away and airlines can accept me back home. Please. But, anywho. And yeah, I mean, all these solutions that I'm suggesting, I feel like I'm comfortable putting out in the world. You know, there's so much misinformation out there. There's so much fake news, and there's also a lot of legitimate, I guess, questioning of the official narrative that we're given. In my opinion, which is pretty justified, because I mean, how much do we truly trust a lot of the governments that we're getting our information from? Especially, you know, communist China. Like, I often say the numbers that are released from there are whatever numbers that the government wants to be released to best serve its interests. And that might be quite a cynical approach, but everything that I've seen thus far of how they've reacted since the rest of the world has caught it only furthers my skepticism. So as such, this solution I'm giving is not one of, oh, buy my supplements, you know, buy my wellness package, you know, like, no, this is all free stuff. This is all free whatever. In fact, almost everything on this list is literally going to make you money. Like, it's a thing for you not to buy. Such as if food shortages exist and you're only eating one meal a day, then if you're like me and that one meal a day isn't even that much larger than one of the traditional meals you used to eat when it'd be 3 times a day, think about how much money you're saving on food. Think about how easy it is to then ration out what you're eating. Then when bathing, I mean, especially if it's cold out, aren't you really spending more money on heating your water than just taking a cold shower? You know, and not pleasuring yourself. And just breathing to deal with your anxiety instead of like popping some pills. Again, free stuff. You can do this. Come on. It's easy. It's simple. And my suggestion is just to try it, because all this information, all these suggestions, perhaps they're frivolous, perhaps they're inspiring. I won't know. But neither will you until you try it. And that's sort of the point that I want to make. And as such, I hope that this episode has helped to empower you to live your true self, to prepare yourself against this threat that we all face, this non-living threat, to be specific, this almost this disease of information. That is actually a very interesting, and I have to write that down. But it's a very poetic way of putting it, because viruses literally are not living. It's one of the only 3 of the 4 categories of germs that are, technically speaking, non-living. It is purely information that affects our cells if our body is not prepared for it. But our bodies are built for this. Like, to end it, our bodies are designed to endure these disasters. Like, when I look at Robert Schulk, who is a geologist that basically looked into the past, and we know humans have existed for at least 200, if not 300,000 years. And just in the past 150,000 years, I think there have been at least 12 major apocalyptic level cataclysmic events that have occurred. So clearly, at least 12 potentially species wiping events within our own human existence. And as such, if any of us
were not adapted to that situation of surviving these cataclysms, we wouldn't be here now. Our ancestors wouldn't be able to pass on those genes to us. We are literally these survivors of survivors. All we have to do is, in my opinion, this is how I personally like to assess if a certain health trend is a good idea, is look at the span of human existence and then compare it to the small fraction of society that we now live in, like since the invention of money and culture and society, cities, everything, modern medicine. Just a small fraction of the time frame that we've existed. And as such, it makes sense that our bodies would be adapted for that much larger span, which also endured all those apocalyptic events. And what do those people have to endure? Well, they likely went hungry a lot of the time. They weren't just, having their refrigerator stocked full of meats and cheeses and everything. Like, I'm just going to eat this for breakfast and lunch and dinner. Like, no, they would likely probably go days without foods, and they just find some nuts and be like, oh, thank goodness. Some fruits, amazing. Find an animal and be like, oh, we have to hunt it. Slowly go after it. And if they eat it, then oh, great. And they'd probably they'd overeat during that period because, they finally have some food. And as such, then it doesn't seem that surprising that that kind of diet would be one with which mankind is best adapted for. Next one, bathing, embrace the cold. Like, how many cold showers do you think early mankind had? No, a lot of the rivers are cold. I mean, obviously there are a lot of very warm beaches, so this one can be a little more up in the air, I will admit, but I feel like whenever I've been out in the wild, the majority of times it's cold water. Besides during the summertime. Next, when aroused, redirect your reaction. Think about how often mankind had to, reproduce. It likely wasn't exactly a very hospitable environment for lovemaking. Especially, child rearing and everything. A lot of the times mankind would exist in these small groups of 30 to 150 people max. And, the community, the community of men would look after the community of women, especially when a lot of them would be pregnant and more vulnerable and, raising children. You have all those other things going on. It's difficult, Life was far more difficult. And as such, you sort of had to redirect that force to surviving. Then when anxiety arises, awaken your awareness and break with a breath. I mean, think about it. If you're out there running from a tiger and you get anxious and freeze, you're dead. You dead. And there isn't anything you can do about that. So as such, it makes sense that, in the land before antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication, mankind would have alternatives to dealing with such an issue, with facing enemies like mammoths that were far larger than itself. So. Breaking with a breath seems like the logical, most simple solution. We all breathe. And, they weren't bogged down by politics and television shows and everything, so they likely had more opportunity to focus on simple things like breathing. And as such, embracing the simplicity of life does seem as though it's the best mode of living in dealing with this pandemic that we face. So, I really hope that these words that I have passed on to you guys will help because they helped me. They've helped me through it, and I feel like I'm sort of owing it to mankind and to the ancient knowledge that a lot of these things come from, to pass it on to hopefully people that haven't heard from the same courses that I've heard and haven't, it's not like the same lectures on YouTube that I have. Like, Jesus, I can't imagine all the hour-long lectures that I've listened to that seem insanely boring to someone that wasn't as crazy as I am. As such, I feel like it's time to wrap up the podcast with a nice little goodbye jingle. Personal, proactive pursuits will always prevent the predictable panics, because this dilemma we face now sure as hell isn't the first, and it damn well won't be the last. So, if anything, this has been a great warning for us all, and I hope as such you all join me in pushing forward our next great step for mankind as we emerge from our cocoons of quarantine that we've all been forced to suscept ourselves to. This is Luke Ravelli, the true party king of the Neon Revolution, signing off. I love you all.